Hello everyone. So for Pokemon Masters, the March and slash anniversary Datamine has dropped, and we have, guess what, more limited units. At this point, I think DNA is not even going to bother releasing general pool units. They're just going to release limited units because if they release a normal pool unit, people aren't going to pull for it anyway. So may as well release more limited units. So this anniversary, there is 3 units that's been kind of official, and there's like another one that's coming up probably halfway through. That's not in the official data mine, but it's kind of been leaked already. So I'm gonna go through all those 4 units, and we're gonna start off with May and Latias. So May and Latias is a tech. I think all three, the first 3 units are tech, and then the last one is a striker. And her role is very similar to that of Bianca as a psychic terrain unit, although she has psychic wish instead of the psychic terrain move. And so most of her comparisons are going to be to Bianca and Musharna because they fill that role as a secondary DPS that provides the psychic terrain and is used to power up like a main psychic type striker. In terms of her stats, it's really like the special attack is okay. Everything else is just looking, the HP is actually looking a bit low. And then her post mega stats, the special attack does get pretty good. And so that would be, yeah, this would be the full special attack stat at 20 out of 20. So that's pretty good. And then the special defense is actually decent, but I think she's not good for tanking because this HP and this defense is just not good for tanking. In terms of her moves, Mistball is 50% chance to lower special attack. These descriptions are a bit messed up. So it's kind of like a psychic with a high percent chance of lowering special attack rather than special defense. And then of course Psychic Wish. So I guess the distinction between Psychic Wish and Psychic Terrain, the Pokemon move, is that well, they both have 2 uses and then use 2 bars. But this one you'd still be able to do even if you're flinched because it's a trainer move. But it does not trigger something like the regeneration or burn or poison. So overall, I think the trainer move one is better because you could do it even if you're disabled, even if you're asleep, you're able to do it. And then X special attack all, which is quite uncharacteristic of a tech, because techs usually don't like. This is a very supportive move, but it's good. And then her trainer move is a move gauge acceleration, defense, 1, and critical rate. So she's decently self-sufficient, but really you'd want to support for her because she can't max a special attack and crit at the same time. And you also have to set up the psychic terrain, so you'll always be running her with a support. And that's kind of similar with Bianca as well. Bianca needs crit support, so none of them are self-sufficient. And in terms of her passives, this is a multiplier for lowered an opponent's special attack and special defense. So this is pretty good. It somewhat helps with the Miss Ball's otherwise a relatively low base power. And then Psychic Freebie is really good. It pretty much means in Psychic terrain, she just doesn't use Gauge at all. And that's just really amazing, right? Although Bianca has a similar kind of benefit in that she has the Precognition and then she has the Prep Rally, which somewhat helps. So psychically doesn't really have a gauge issue anyway. But this is definitely very good. And then this is post Mega, right? So pre Mega, she has the Honor Roll, and Honor Roll just guarantees the Miss Ball to be 100%. And then post Mega, she gets the unexpected benefit, which looks to be you lose the 100% chance, although I'm not 100% sure about this because this is a new ability, but you lower the opponent by 2. So overall, like decent utility and decent damage. And if we look at her grid, um, she's got some good multipliers on the grid for a sync nuker, and her damage is decent. Of course, I don't know why we even have to bother with the 1 out of 5. So 1 out of 5, pretty much you're just relying on your base kit. Although getting a missable move gauge 3 is nice. Like I think the units we've been getting, like 1 out of 5, just literally have nothing. And then 2 out of 5 doesn't really have anything either. Like 2 out of 5 is almost the same as 1 out of 5. And then 3 out of 5 is when you unlock everything with the Smarty Pants, the Brain Teaser, the Devastation, the Overpower. So all the multipliers. These are the move multipliers, 30% at max, and then these are the sync multipliers. So that's 100% each at max. And so, and then of course the Psychic Wish refresh, and this is refresh 3. So this is 40% rather than the 30% that we've been getting for the previous zone units. So that's really good. In terms of the build, I think this is probably the best build for her in terms of syncing. So you have all the sync nodes. You may need someone to help with the Smarty Pants to lower their special defense, but she pretty much can do the special attack lowering by herself. And you also have the refresh on the terrain. And then if you're not syncing with her, because there's a lot of strikers that can sync, right? Well, strikers and techs. So there's Mewtwo that's free. There's Cygnus with Luzamine, and there is Leah. They can all sync very well, so you don't really need to sync with her. And then this would be like a non-syncing grid. So we still have Overpower. We have the Mistball. Oh, do we even need the Mistball move gauge? Because she won't be using gauge anyway. But I guess this would help generate more gauge. And then the propulsion, I think, is mostly just to go with this would just to go with Luzamine, because Luzamine has a -2 on her sync countdown on the trainer move, and this would shave off 1 turn. And then this May is just to like some extra debuffs for the opponent. So how good is she? I think she's good, but she's not really like heads and shoulders higher than Bianca. So you don't have to pull for her because Bianca is one of the strongest general pool units. So it's like to compare with her and be still, I think she's still a bit better overall, but not really a lot better. So definitely not a must pull. And she's one of the better units out of the batch as well. Next, let's move on to Skyla and Tornados. This unit is really it's the Flying Wish unit, and this is where you see the quality starting to drop because we've been getting really strong terrain units, right? The Cygnus, Renegade Cynthia, the Lucas, and then we had Marnie and Cyrus. They're all really strong. So, and this unit is not very strong. If you look at the stats, though, it looks quite nice, right? This is very high special attack, and it's deep. The bulk is decent, but really this is not a tanking. Like you can't really tank with this bulk now, especially at 2,000 point master mode, full offensive parameters. You really need tanks like Cygnus with Blue or like full Caitlyn to actually be able to tank. Even stuff like Lyra and like Hilbert, they can't really tank like a really strong move. So this is not good for tanking. And this is kind of my contention with all of the tech units is that they're all kind of supportive. Other than Latias, they're all kind of supportive, but they're also not good at tanking. So they don't have that roll compression. All right, let's go into this really high special attack. Will go on unused because Air Cutter's base power is too low, so it's impossible to do damage with this. But you can see with her kit, she's actually not intended to be doing damage. It's a Flying Wish. This is good. This lifts Lance and Gyarados, New Year Lance and Gyarados, and the Anniversary Steven. Like, just increases their damage dramatically. Mini Potion All. So this is another one of those kind of supportive abilities that's on a tick. Um, Mini Potion All is not great. I think it doesn't heal enough. It's only 20%, but for everyone. And then you kind of overheal on certain units, so certain units may not have taken much damage, but you're healing them anyway. It can come in handy if your opponent sinks, but really the 20% just makes such a small difference that it really matters. And then Ready for Takeoff is decent. Like, it's not an amazing trainer move. I heard that it raises speed by 2 rather than 1, so that makes it a lot better. But this doesn't make her self-sufficient anyway, unless you go for the refresh. But you can't because you also need to set up Flying Wish. So it's better to run her with a support once again, right? Not the best. I think maybe they went overboard with the last few months is trainer moves, and they kind of want to tone it back now. And then not much on the sync. It's just a normal tick sync with the condition being Flying Zone. Oh, I guess we'll go back to May because May's condition is actually not Psychic Terrain. It is if the special attack is lowered. Not that it makes a difference because she does that on her own anyway. So it's not like it's harder. So you got Staggering 2, that's nice. That's 30% chance. And it's 30% chance applied to everyone because Air Cutter is AoE, and because it's on the passive rather than inherent in the move. So if this was like a 30% chance to flinch on the move, it'll actually be cut down to 15% on each unit. But because it's staggering, this is a passive on its own, it's actually 30%. So there's a 30% chance your opponents will flinch. That's decent. It's not great, but it does apply to everyone. And then the Gobsmack 2 is 30% chance they will become confused. Confusion is amazing on the sides because they don't really have any mitigation, but it's not really that good on the mid. So that's kind of it. But it goes together with Stat. So she's kind of a control unit rather than a damage dealer. So the whole goal of using staggering on the Godsmack is to just make your opponent, straight up skip turns or delay their turns or have them hit themselves, therefore not doing damage. And aerial acceleration is just more move gauge and flying zone, and her speed is really good already. So like this is really good speed. So her problem is not doing any damage, at least in terms of moves, but she does have a lot of utility that goes with it. In terms of the grid, 1 out of 5. This is one of those 1 out of 5s that literally have nothing. And then the 2 out of 5 doesn't really have the Team Sharp entry. That is decent, and that makes her also self-sufficient. But the problem with her is, I think if you're going for a more sync orientated build, you might be a bit greedy. So like there's a lot of tiles for like inertia and the interference sync and then the sync nodes, so she may not have enough to actually go grab this. So it's like I said, it's just better to bring a support for her. She can't max her special attack anyway. And she does have the soften up, which is quite nice for sync because this just means you don't have to deal with RNG. Because normally if you like the sync, because unless the sync itself or you guarantee the sync, it's actually 80% chance for your sync to hit. So soften up it's generally always worth it, just so you don't have to, because you already have a lot of RNG you have to deal with anyway with the other moves. So it's good. Any kind of reduction in RNG is good. In terms of the grid, go for the sync one. So the sync one you can't really grab sharp entry, but you're able to grab the soften up, the flying wish, and then you grab inertia and the interference sync. So this is a lot of damage. Like her sync damage is definitely very good, even if her move damage is non-existent. And then if you're not syncing with her, in which case you would be syncing with like a support, because lands, her traditional partners, so lands and like, oh, if you also if you're using her with the original blue with Pidgeot, is just gonna be like Pidgeot has to sync. So you won't be syncing. If you're not syncing with her, there's this one with the staggered. So you're adding another 20% chance onto the flinch, and then you also have the move gauge 9 to help with your potential gauge issues. And now you can grab both the sharp entry, and then you can also grab this one, which yeah, it's just that a bit of damage reduction. Which is nice, but I still don't think she's good for sinking, for tanking. So but sharp entry one just to allow her to have that in this case, or you can go for oh, actually, if I can we grab here? If we don't go for the team sharp entry, but it's just so nice to go for the team sharp entry as a support. You can kind of also do this. In which case, if your team can already max their crit, you can go for this, where you grab both this one as a debuff, and then adds more chance of them becoming confused. Because my third would be like you grab the team sharp entry, but you lose this side, lose the gauge and the staggering, and then you can just grab some other things. But maybe this build would be better. How good is she? She's actually not amazing, because she just kind of does flinches rather than just straight up kill your opponent, because you have like units like Lucas, which just kills them. But if you have a lot of flying units, I do suggest she's a good pickup, just to because she does make your flying team so much stronger, right? So, and she's not bad. She's really not bad, because flinch is kind of broken in this game, and confuse also can be good. But yeah, that's it. She's definitely not up there with the other zone units or terrain units, but it's a unique take, because we don't want every unit to just do damage and then do more damage, right? Third, we move on to Raihan and Flygon. This is the weirdest unit of the bunch, because similar to Skyla and Tornados, he does no damage, right? It doesn't matter what the special attack is or attack is. It doesn't matter, because he does no damage. And then his gimmick is being able to Sandstorm and have the Sand extension. So this is the Weather God passive, right? So the Drought Alert and the Rain one. And he also, because he has a max move, he has a max flare in order to generate sun. Although the sun is really just going to be like 3 turns and that's it, because you can only use max move once. So this is a very strange unit. It's a supportive unit. Is not supposed to deal damage. However, it also cannot tank. Like this bulk is not good, even with this passive. Right? We'll go on to the passive later, but this bulk is just not good. Even with the 30% buff. Like it's not good. That's it. Yeah, in terms of the moves, Twister is not good, because I believe Twister's a 20% chance to flinch, but it's actually 10%, and you would need aggravation to bring it back to 20, but 20 is not amazing anyway. On the 5-spin, which traps the opponent but also does no damage. Trap is usually just used in order to fulfill a condition, because the damage itself really isn't that much. And then, of course, you have Sandstorm. Sadly, his competition of Ingo being one of the best supports in the game, he clearly doesn't measure up to that, even with the trainer move. The trainer move is some buffs. I don't know if this is a typo, raising crit by 4, because there's only 3 stages. So it raises a bit of special attack, and then applies, this one's very important, right? The super effective up next for all allied units. So this is his main draw, because this is before this only classic red have the ability to give an ally super effective up next, and he does it for both allies. So he's actually kind of similar to Ingo in that Ingo gives the free move next to the whole team, right? But this trainer moves only one. So, and then his passives are weather buff. So this is definitely a decent passive, like all stats buffed by 30% and weather. Very good. However, his bulk leaves a lot to be desired. And even though his attack would be quite high, right? His attack would be at least decent with a 30% boost. It'll be above 400, but he does no damage. Like his moves are just base power too low. And then so this increases the move gauge. And then this one is also very interesting, right? So when he uses status move, so that would mean Sandstorm. So when he uses Sandstorm, he actually buffs the team's physical and special move next by one rank. One rank is 40%, right? So he could use this in conjunction with the can be tamed for a really strong move, but it's like only once. So that's kind of the problem. Like this, he would be so much stronger if this was two uses, and his other buffs could be used. Like you don't have to worry about the other buffs. Just delete all of this. Just apply the super effective up next, and have this at 2 out of 2. He'd be so much stronger, but he doesn't have that, and yeah, that's his problem. He does also have the max move for like kind of for a nuking build, because max moves always do a lot of damage, right? So he can, because you can sync and then you can have a max move just to pile on the damage, but it's kind of a one-off thing. And in terms of his grid, he has pretty much nothing. Like this is, I guess, decent if you're gonna spam Twister and 5-spin. 2 doesn't really have anything relevant. I mean, the Twister Aggravation 2 is definitely nice. So that makes it 30% to flinch the whole enemy side, but it's still not amazing, right? It only brings it up to what Skyla was already at. And then 3 out of 5, he has more sync nodes. Strangely enough, his sync, he has this one, right? He has the interference sync. Oh, right. His sync condition is just weather. So any weather will do. He can actually go into a rain team and still sync. So this one, interference sync, and weather sync up 5, and then the solar sync. Oh, right, this is the solar sync. Oh, I thought this was like a solar flare. So he actually can have 2 uses of sun if you grab the solar sync. Oh, that's very interesting. So I have the sand one. This would be his sand move. He would be like a sync nuker build. Because I really don't see why you would use him if you're not using him to sync, because he doesn't have the kind of the utility that the Skyla has. Skyla and Tornados has. And then if you are just going to use them for weather, like there are better weather units out there. But because he has, maybe grab the sand extension. So I guess, yeah, so you don't have to run this. Like this is also good for helping your team if you use a max move. But you can also, if you want for a longer battle, you can grab the sand alert as well, and then just sync with this. And then the sun one, you grab the solar sync to effectively have 2 rounds of sun. And then I do think this is a very good move. Like it just you will always be using your max move anyway, and after you use your max move, you can boost your allies' attack up. So he's kind of like a support, but he doesn't directly give your team like actual buffs in the sense of crit or attack or special attack, but instead he gives a super effective up and the special or physical up next instead. So he's definitely the weirdest. He actually reminds me a lot of the older techs that is in the game. So like strong sync nuke, and then in terms of fitting on your team, you actually have to use your mind, use your brain a bit because it's not immediate as to how you'll use him. But he's definitely interesting. He will have a like a spot on a sand team or a sun team, even though there are quite a bit of competition for both. So the Ingo, and then for sun there is um, Groudon, Maxian Groudon. That's like a very strong unit. So he's definitely got his competition there. But if you think hard enough, I think you can have a good team for him. And we come to the hidden unit that is Cygnus, Serena, and Zygarde. And I had a look at her abilities and grid, and really she just reminds me of Cygnus with Luzamine. But I guess we'll go over it. The stats don't look like the defenses actually look a bit low. This is 20 out of 20 stats. And then the attack and special attack looks good. But as we can tell from Skyla and Tornados, having a high like offense doesn't really mean much. But at least she doesn't have the problem of she does not have the problem of having low base power moves and decent HP. And then the reason, okay, let's look at her moves. So both her attack moves, as one's ground, one is dragon, and she's a dragon type. 1,000 waves, which is AoE, and applies restraint. And then core enforcer is AoE, higher base power, but doesn't do anything. So both of these are decently high, but they are cut down due to the AoE. So her damage is looking good, but not looking amazing so far. And Dire Hit Plus, and then of course the trainer move is just maxes out your offenses and gives you gradual healing. So this is really strong as a trainer move, but it does use up 2 gauges. So that's why I say it's very similar to Cygnus or Luzamine. It's AoE unit. The trainer move max the offense but doesn't max the crit, and you all will always want to sync with Zygarde because Zygarde, when he syncs, will get a buff to all the stats, and you'll still have the 300 base power sync move. And you want to sync. You always want to sync because she's very strong. Serena's very strong in terms of the sync damage. So yeah, that is it. In terms of the skills, she also has really good skills. Well, the Callous Flag Bearer is just okay. Like, in terms of in base form, she has the strong start. The strong start, which gives her a boost to her physical or special move up next, and then she has the hit start, which is like you can use this if you have more hit start units, but it's not immediately useful. And then you have the restraining sync, which is a multiplier on the sync move. It's very good because this is a striker, right? So the sync is AoE. And once you go to the complete form after syncing, your abilities all change. And to your moves never miss, your stats can't be lowered, which is quite useful, and like it stops you from being debuffed to hell in certain stages. And Power Hold 5. This just seems like a special version of. It's like a powered up version of the Restraint Sync because now you have the Sync power up and you have the Move power up because the Move one is Hold Hostage, right? So this is a combination of Hold Hostage and Restraint Sync. Very strong so far. And her grid is also really strong as well. So her grid has the brain power. This is like really good because they normally just don't give strikers this kind of like a blanket 100% boost anymore. Oh, by the way, like 1 out of 5 doesn't have anything, right? just has the move gauge refresh. And then 2 out of 5 also doesn't have anything amazing. It does give you the hold hostage one. And 3 out of 5 has everything. So for her, 1 out of 5 I think is enough. But if you want to use her to the max, 3 out of 5 is definitely worth it. And then in terms of the move, the grid, just go for hold hostage. I think it's go for soften up, brain power, and then just grab. Yeah, just grab the sync node and then the sync multiplier. And this is pretty much perfect. Right? You do have some other things like these things, but I honestly think this is the best. Even for on type, I think just have it like this because you can't reach this is very expensive for a 20% boost, and you're pretty much going to just destroy any on type stage anyway, so it doesn't matter. And yeah, so you have all the sync, you still have like a 10% multiplier on your moves, and you have the base one, right? You have it on her abilities, the 50% boost, and this is a really high special attack. And the move is still decently high. Like it's not like at the level of Hyper Beam or even like the 4-bar moves like Blast Burn, but it's still pretty high. And then it's totally compensated once you have this 50% boost, and then you still have this massive special attack. So this is just really strong. Out of the 4 units, this is definitely the best. If a bit boring, because she doesn't really bring anything else. She's just like big damage, right? Big damage on both ground and dragon moves. And she doesn't really, there's not much of team composition for her. I guess good with Lucas because of the dragon moves. But really, she could just, I think she can benefit from a crit support because, or like crit support because you'd want to use the 1,000 waves to restrain your opponent before you do anything else. So you want first you want to do the trainer move, then you do die hit plus, and then you want to do the 1,000 waves. So you would want someone to max her crit, but that's really it. Otherwise, she's pretty much perfect. Even her speed is really high. She's pretty much perfect. Just high damage. I guess her weakness is just she's boring. That's about it. And second best, I think, is Latias. Right? Pretty much also doesn't have any, like her only weakness would be Bianca's or almost as strong. And then probably Tornados next, and Raihan is he's just really tricky to figure out. Everyone, thanks for watching, and I hope you all have a nice day.